Welcome to the FAbM podcast. I am Mary here with my co-host Emily, and we have a special guest for you, Jamie. I am a huge fan of the Hormone Genius Podcast. Okay, you are one half of that.
Yeah.
Every time I see your name, I want to say Rathjen.
Oh yeah, I know. It's so confusing.
Explain to me how to pronounce it and where it comes from.
Okay, here's a trick. So it's raw cheese, but just think of raw cheese.
Raw cheese.
Yes, E at the end. Raw cheese. Raw cheese without the S-E.
Okay. All right. That helps.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I already know a little bit about what you do from listening to the Hormone Genius podcast. I know you're a Creighton practitioner. I've learned recently you're a hormone coach.
Yep.
You're also a founder of a woman's nonprofit healthcare center. So please explain to us just a little bit about you. How did this all come together for you?
Yeah. Well, I would say from the Lord, truly. I when I was young, I was so weirded out by my female body. Like I was not super interested in how my body worked or anything, very vague and uncomfortable. And I often joke that, in high school and middle school, even, when you're thinking about like your growing body and you need bras, I would be mortified to reference my breasts or boobs or whatever. I'd call them chestal units. So that is what I would do. I wouldn't even reference my body parts appropriately, even going into high school. Isn't that so sad?
Of all the terms, chestal units. That's a new
I know. I'm like, I can say that, So funny enough that now I love talking about cervical mucus, and that's like probably one of the worst words, like mucus. No one likes saying that, So funny. It's so funny. So I in college ran collegiate track, and that was my life. I loved to run, and it was a bit of a distraction because I didn't have to think too far in advance if I just focused on my track career. But then as my senior year was getting closer, I actually had a track injury that forced me to rethink what, we would be doing after graduation. I decided to stay for that extra year of track, but then also to get a master's at the college that I was already going to. The plan was for me to kind of go on and go to a different program for occupational therapy. But I thought I'm going to just, stay close, get my master's, and then go on, once my track career is finished. So interestingly enough, my degree was in community health education. We had to pick an end of the year topic to research, and I chose fertility awareness-based methods. And so at the time, my husband and I were engaged to be married. So I just wanted to learn so I wouldn't have to pay, which now I hate it when people do that. But I'm like, I'm just going to self-teach myself how to use a natural system to avoid pregnancy in our marriage. And like that mild curiosity turned into a full-fledged passion. And so then like one thing led to another. So this whole concept of fertility awareness, not needing birth control, understanding that our body gives us data about our health and our hormones, I decided to dig deeper. And so my little research paper turned into an actual IRB approved research where I interviewed doctors and nurses in my community and tried to understand why they don't share this information with their female clients. So it just a long story short, I was activated by what I was mildly curious about. And then it turned from curious again to obsession. So I knew that it was from, again, the Lord, because that's how you know it, when you can't stop thinking about this one thing. So I'll stop there. We can kind of chit chat because there's, of course, more to the story. I don't know. Did you guys have that? Did you feel with this?
Oh, yeah.
Right? You just can't get in your head.
Well, it's so funny because, what you're talking about is oh, no, I don't even want to touch these things with a 10-foot pole. I'm going to call them chestal units, whatever. There's so many things that I have said that I would never do. And then all of a sudden, it's the thing that I'm doing and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And, one of the things that I joke about is I always said I could never marry a Yankee. I could never marry someone in politics. I could never be in politics, all this type of stuff. Well, after college, like I'm married to a guy from Wisconsin who works with lawyers all day, and we met in the political sphere in DC. So I'm just like, like that type of stuff happens. Like whenever you say never, God's like, oh, you sweet summer child. Like here's what's actually going to happen.
The careers we're in don't really exist. We're kind of creating them.
We
if
are.
You think about it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm literally just realizing. Because as a child growing up, it's like, oh yeah, I want to be a fertility awareness professional when I grow up. Right? That just doesn't. That's something
we're creating a whole field.
So that's how it works. God puts it on your heart, and it's like, yes, because we need this. We are needed in all of our feminine genius glory and all the different ways we do it. It's just so interesting to see how that comes together.
Oh my gosh. For your podcast listeners, they don't see me, but my head is about to come off my body because I'm nodding so much. It's so true. That's such a good point. Like we're creating the jobs that people are going to want to have in the next generation. We didn't even know this kind of job could exist. It's so true.
I love it.
Which actually explains the imposter syndrome, because I'm like, am I qualified to do this? And it's like, yes, no, nobody's qualified to do this. We're creating it right now.
Yes. Bombs. Oh my gosh. So good. That is so good.
I feel so much better about myself now.
Yeah.
You're not alone.
Yeah.
Let's just pat ourselves on the back here for a moment.
Totally. All right. Yeah. What's the dad joke? Just don't break your arm while you do it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, no, this is like, I love that, how you have that passion. Okay. So when you were talking about doing this research and you went to the doctors and you're like, why don't you talk to women about this? What did they say?
Yes. Okay. I'm so sorry. Can you guys edit stuff?
Yes, on audio, not on video, but go for it. We're totally authentic. Let's let it roll.
You can keep it. I got a new Mac computer and I silenced my phone, but I don't know how to silence my messages coming in through my computer. So there's a lot of dinging. Do you guys hear dinging?
That's totally fine. I didn't even hear it.
I didn't hear it.
You didn't hear dinging?
Oh, good.
Well,
I've got a 4-year-old watching Shaun the Sheep, so we will definitely be getting some of that at some point. So it's fine. We roll.
When we say we're authentic, we mean it. Give us all of it.
Okay, and you don't even. That's good to know for all you iMac users. Like, apparently, you don't hear the notification on the other end. Okay.
Yeah.
So, ask me again.
So when you were talking about the research that you did, and you actually went to doctors and you asked them, like, why don't you talk to women about fertility awareness? Immediately, I was like, what did they say?
Oh man. Oh, Emily. Okay. This is crazy. There's so much I could say about this. First off, they would say, no, I don't share this with my clients because it's the rhythm method. It's guesswork. Like I don't waste my time with that. So of all of the medical professionals that I interviewed in my community, all of them besides one didn't either even know what I was talking about, or they don't even offer it as an option. Unless someone's wanting to actively achieve pregnancy, but never for avoiding. But that one woman who had heard of it, and she was working at the college student center in town, and she would offer it as an option. And the only reason why is because of how she was raised. So when I was doing these interviews, I realized I need to add another layer. I need to ask, how were you raised? And does that influence what you do in the doctor's office?
Interesting.
And it does. It truly does. And so it's funny because most of the people I interviewed, they didn't, they weren't raised knowing that. And again, many of the men who would answer my call, actually, I mean, there were men, not women. That would have been a better study. If I were to do it over, it'd be a little different, but just so interesting. So this woman who was raised knowing it, giving it to women as an option, what happened, unbeknownst to me, and I'm just this random college girl that's calling all these random doctors, right? She writes down my name on a piece of paper and she keeps it for years because that day she felt God calling her to do better. And so now she's trained in NAPRO. She quit that job. She has a whole other career. Again, I didn't even know who she was. And she wrote down my name again. And she only told me later, like, Jamie, that call changed everything. I'm like, I just asked you 5 questions. Like, it was a survey.
Wow.
It's insane. It's incredible. And so Guiding Star Project, if you guys have heard of that, Mir, you were kind of sharing, that I'm a founder of a women's healthcare center in my community called Guiding Star Cedar Valley. And so that's one of 8, I think now, Guiding Star centers in the nation. Guiding Star Project, it's a nonprofit women's healthcare movement. But she even like served as the board chairwoman at our Guiding Star. So it's
wow,
beautiful. So to answer your
Amazing.
question, Erin and Emily, I'm sorry, and Mary, Guiding Star's tightly woven into that, which is so cool. I don't know if you guys
That's
have heard of
amazing.
Guiding Star before.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, that's amazing.
Yeah,
That's
isn't that
amazing.
crazy? I
That
know.
is
It is, but
fascinating.
it's not. It's like, it's always going to be those little things.
Yep.
So many things just kind of hinge off of the things that you as the questioner, like you're not even thinking like, I'm just doing my project and I'm, you know, whatever. And you just, yeah, you have no idea what that's going to mean to the other person. And
Yeah. I think it's like a gut check. Like she had to ask herself, why am I really prescribing birth control? Like, is this really good for the college women that I'm serving? And she just came to realize that it really wasn't.
And
you
a
know?
lot of us are so nervous to like ask our doctors questions. And like sometimes it's really that simple. Like you just asked a few questions and that got her to think. I mean, that's not gonna happen like that every time. Obviously, you asked a lot of doctors questions, but it's just nice to know that it could be that simple if that doctor is in the right place to like, you know, go and do more research and find out a little bit more.
Totally. And God was
So
working on
cool.
her heart, you know, far
Yeah.
before that call. It was just like kind of that divine timing, I think, too.
Yeah.
yeah.
So tell us a little bit, obviously, fertility awareness and the actual practice of it with actual like methods. I know you're a Creighton practitioner, like that is one part. I know that you have the hormone coaching part.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about what hormone coaching is and how does that relate to fertility awareness?
Yeah.
Like, can you just explain, like, do they work together? Does it work with any method? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually, as I answer this, I'm going to tie that into kind of maybe the timeline, which is perfect timing. So when I started getting really convicted about like fertility awareness methods, I wanted to know more. I wanted to know more and I wanted to know more. And ladies, you probably are that same way, but I just am a learner by nature. And so I went and got trained as a fertility care practitioner through Creighton. And it was incredible. It changed my whole life. You know, you guys know that because again, we know how big that has become. But it still wasn't enough for me for some reason. I felt like there wasn't, not that it wasn't enough, but because I like to learn, I wasn't done there. That's what I should say. I wasn't done there. So even so, like I thought, well, maybe I'll go and like sit in through the FEMM training and I want to see what I learned through that. And I've always just wanted to learn. I'm really into like essential oils now and herbs and natural medicine and learning so much about like, you know, supplements and eating right and all of that. To me, in my head, it would make sense that all affects our body, right? Like to be well. And our hormones, the role of our hormones is to keep our body at homeostasis. And our hormones are more than just our sex hormones, you know, like cortisol is a stress hormone that impacts our sex hormones. So that means if I'm stressed, it's going to impact my, you know, my sex hormones, my progesterone and my estrogen. So that was the stuff that I felt really curious about. And I didn't really learn that, which was fine. Because again, the main goal for Creighton and FEMM and those systems for avoiding and achieving pregnancy is really to teach the women how to understand their times of fertility and infertility, right? And then if there's this infertility pattern or this, you know, health concern of some kind through the charting pattern, then we're trained to refer them on to a doctor. But the program I created, so through the Fiat Institute, that's my organization name is the Fiat Institute, and I train women to be hormone coaches. And that really came from, again, this gap that I experienced personally in serving women, not even just in my own brain, but even as women would come to me, I started realizing, yes, I need to refer this woman to the doctor, but she just came back, you know, this woman's going to come back because, you know, maybe she just has an unhealthy lifestyle, which is why she has heavy bleeding. You know, what about those women who have heavy bleeding? They don't have endometriosis. We refer them on to the doctor, but then like, what does the doctor do? You know, they don't have the time to coach them through all the lifestyle factors, just like they don't have the time to teach them about their whole chart. That's why fertility care practitioners exist. But who's taking the time to talk about them with them about our stress, you know, the impacts of stress on our body and a healthy gut and liver and toxic load and all that. So to answer your question, it really came from the gaps I saw. So people who come to see hormone coaches. So at this point, I've trained about 30 women to be hormone coaches. They all come in like different shapes and forms. When I say that, I don't mean physically, although that is true too. We're all God's children. We are all different shapes, but I mean in terms of like their profession. So I would say maybe like a quarter of them are trained in FEMM or Creighton method. And then, a handful of others are like in the medical profession. So PAs, midwives, DOs, which has been incredibly humbling, you guys, for me. I'm like, why don't you just go through the NAPRO training? And they probably will someday. But I feel like this is like a bridge getting people to like, understand health and wellness. And then let's dig deeper. So yeah, I would say that it's just that perfect companion piece. It doesn't replace charting. We do teach them how to chart 101 basic, but it's not like we're saying we're going to help you avoid pregnancy. It's all through that health aspect.
I got it. That makes so much sense because I've been a Creighton practitioner for like about 4 years-ish now. And I'm noticing, especially as one of my best friends is a Creighton practitioner and she's a nurse and she has all this valuable knowledge about nutrition that I don't have, and like nursing. And then you realize you have all these different backgrounds that come together to become like an instructor, but I know we're limited. And I know like my friend Lisa, she knows, she knows a lot of this stuff. So I'm asking her. And so like, we have these people we refer to, whether it's a nutritionist or pelvic floor physical therapy. So I get it. It's like, cause I really don't have the time or the expertise to sit down and talk about these lifestyle changes. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And two, I think there's something to be said, which is very important from the Creighton world, which is where I'm from, to have like those meetings be very standardized and very, you don't deter much from the main thing, which is great because you can study that. But in ways that also was difficult for my personality. And I think too, like for my hormone coaching program, it's different in that way too. It allows space to exercise our feminine genius. And so there are these coaching tools called the Fiat Way coaching methodology. It's how we like literally learn how to tap into our feminine genius, how to utilize those, and then how to also help that woman undo some of those knots in her womanhood that hormones are, will either be, a byproduct of like maybe a stress issue based on negative self-talk, for instance. And so that's really what we're doing. We're celebrating the identity of women, and we're giving them cause to celebrate their body, hormones and all, and so that's also, I guess, why that's different. We really we're their sister, essentially. We get to know them very, very well. It's more than just that standard appointment. I'll see you in the next 2 weeks, boom, boom, boom. It's like we're friends.
Yeah, it's really cool because like what you're basically talking about, which is something that I know Mary and I have like personally experiencing. And certainly for me, like with fertility awareness, when you start reading the chart and you start to read like so many things in the chart, not just your fertility, but the fact that so many things go into making your fertility happen. And then you just start going down like all these rabbit holes of like, oh my gosh, like if I eat these things, or if I do this type of exercise, or if I'm not sleeping, or you start to realize just how integrated we are.
Yeah.
And how one thing, how you're talking about like the negative self-talk, like raises your stress hormone. Like, yes, like you're kind of going into putting yourself potentially into fight or flight mode, depending on how intensive that is. Right. So cortisol is going to shoot through the roof. Right. And just being aware of, the integration of our mind, body, soul, and like how that all plays out. And the fertility awareness really is it's the gateway drug into all of those other things, and starting to read your body in this chart. And I think that, probably a lot of women listening, certainly for me, Mary, like probably you too, like when you start to read that, it can be overwhelming because we don't live in a world where we think about ourselves as integrated persons. We think about it, all of these things as interconnected, and, seeing this problem, okay, so I have a fertility issue, I have heavy bleeding like you're describing, but that's so far downriver from something that is going on that actually needs to be addressed. Like that's a symptom of something else.
Mm-hmm.
So let's figure out what that root problem is and address that. And it's so not the way that kind of our traditional medicine paradigm is set up.
Mm-hmm.
When I go to the doctor's office, I spend 15 minutes with them. They have no idea anything about my body, no idea. And I think that we're kind of trained to go into that space and just like, I'm going to list off my symptoms and the doctor will give me a drug that I walk out with that will fix my symptoms. And it's really like, as I say that out loud, I'm just kind of like, we're treating ourselves like computers, you know, input problem, output solution. And that's not the way that we operate, but that's so much about like, and not even just with fertility, but everything. Like if we have allergies, if we have a cold, you know, like whatever, like I'm going into the doctor for 15 minutes of their time and they're supposed to know all of these factors in 15 minutes. Right. So, I mean, like, it makes perfect sense that you have kind of what you're describing. What the word that popped into my head was triage. Like, let's actually kind of parse this out and see if there is kind of a lower impact solution that actually is a solution without you having to go do this like intensive testing and all these types of things. Like, let's check some other boxes first. It might be more work, but it could be a better long-term solution.
Yeah, totally. And a lot of our clients, like I was saying, I don't know if I finished saying this thought earlier, do chart with a system. So of course, like the women that I teach to be hormone coaches, yes, some of them are trained in a system. So this just adds like another, you know, service or product, you know, that they have. But women who come to us often are already charting their cycle. You know, they know like that there's an imbalance, but there's not an answer for them. You know, they don't have, again, these like diagnoses that doctors look for when they run labs. As a matter of fact, there's this woman I just had a conversation with last week, and she had seen so many doctors. She is so tired. She can't get up to like use the restroom without sweating. She can't like on the phone. I'm like, would you like to do Zoom? No, I can't. I don't have the energy to sit up and talk to you. I'm like, you've been going to the doctor, and they're like, they just do labs and they say I'm normal. I'm like, this is something that's not right. I mean, like, she is so tired. And it's like, people aren't taking the time, you know, and through these questions, I realized she's not getting enough fat. She's not eating enough fat. You need healthy fats for hormone production. Cholesterol is a precursor. You need cholesterol to produce hormones. So if you don't have enough healthy fat, you're not producing your hormones. And I said, has anybody taught you that before? This woman's 50. And she's like, no. And I'm like, you've gone to like 70 doctor, like all these, never once. I just asked her what she eats in a day. It took me less than 4 minutes to ask her that question. I'm like, holy moly, how are we missing the mark? Wow. So hormone coaches are trained to ask the right questions. We say, ask the second question. Emily Freeman, she has a podcast. She's incredible. I really listened to this podcast episode of hers once, the second question, and it really inspired me. I'm like, that's what we do as hormone coaches. You know, we know when to sit present and we know when to ask questions. But yeah.
It's, as you're talking, it's, you know, this kind of brings up that other area that we don't really, the way the female body works is not really something that we want to spend the time to understand.
Right.
And that's something that we encounter in so many different areas. And even as you said, like, your body needs cholesterol. How many of us just heard that and was like, wait, I thought cholesterol was bad? And how many of us know that there's two different types of cholesterol and that you need a certain amount of both? Like, I remember, you know, I'm a little bit of a biology nerd. Like, I loved that growing up. When I was in school, I ate it up, but like literally your cell membrane is made of cholesterol. So in order for you to be you and to just not be like a blob, like, you need cholesterol. I mean, like, this is actually like an important, but understanding that there are healthy sources of cholesterol, unhealthy sources of cholesterol, and just making sure that there's a balance. Like, we just don't, it's just, no, this is bad, just to make it easy or something. And then you wind up with issues like this.
Yeah. And sometimes, just like I said, asking those simple questions, you know, like at the beginning of the episode, we were talking about the imposter syndrome, right? Emily, I think you said that. And it's true, like, you know, even for me, who am I to train women to be hormone coaches? And like, you know, I have my master's degree. I studied this. I mean, of course I can train women to be hormone coaches. But that imposter thing comes up, and the women that come, I'm like, but listen, who I train, listen, like, women aren't even, so if we think of a scale, like 1 to 10 on how much we can know about our hormones, 10 being the most, 1 being the least. we are like, as a culture, like a negative number. It's not even that we don't know enough. It's that what we think we know is wrong. So I said, as a hormone coach, if I can teach you 3 levels deep, that's all I need to teach you. Then we're like filling in a 5-point gap there, I mean, we're just correcting it. So again, if women are like, I don't know enough, no, believe me, it'll be fine. Like, I can teach you, because again, we're working with a group of women that don't really know anything.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically going to the basics, which, because I'm assuming in a world saturated with birth control everywhere we look, and it's just so natural. Well, it's not natural actually, but it's just more normal to just like assume
common. It's not
common.
Normal.
That's what I meant. I mean, it's natural for that to be the first thing in your mind,
Right.
So when that is so widely accepted and so many people are on it, of course, like how has that influenced what you do? By the way, like just understanding hormonal birth control, how it works, how you've seen it affect the lives of real women.
Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit to that too, and how that influences what you do with hormone coaching?
Yeah. And that's honestly, that was the deciding, or that was like the pinnacle. It's what I think about a lot, is that woman who is on birth control and knows no other option. So it's interesting. I love the book Beyond the Pill by Dr. Jolene Brighten. So good. And she breaks down these numbers, and she's talking about how 60% of women who are using birth control are using it, like the 60% of all women on birth control are using it for some sort of health reason. So it's a combination factor. Some of them are using it for birth control and health, and some are just using it for health alone. In my head, I'm thinking, well, then that means 40% of women using birth control are all actually using it to avoid and to achieve pregnancy. So if we think about people who want to chart their cycle for planning their family, then we're really only capturing 40% in theory. I mean, that's like our potential, if we're trying to get 40% of women, discontinuing the pill, or just in general, like the ratio of kind of where women are at in terms of their goals. So then I'm like, oh my gosh, 60%. If that's who we go to, if that's our target, the women who don't want to be on the pill, they don't know their other options, or again, they're charting their cycle, they're not going to be on the pill, they don't want to, they don't feel comfortable, but their life, they just, it's dreary and it's depressing and sad. They're not going to go on the pill, even though people promise it's going to fix all their issues, but they're still not getting the help they need. So I see anger often come out when we're working with women. Like, why was I never told this? 30% of women change their birth control method 5 times. That's a lot of women. There's like 17 million, that number's always increasing, 17 million women on birth control. And think about 30% of 17 million changing their birth control method, not once, twice, 3 times, but 5 times.
And then that's because they're having unwanted symptoms. Side
effects. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
They hate it. They hate the way it makes them feel. Like, it sucks, man. So like, man, if we can just like, and that's the thing too, is I'm thinking for people who know charting systems exist, but they're not going and doing that because, again, maybe they have a health issue. They think, well, that doesn't apply to me. Even though they still could, we know that. We know they could chart their cycle and still get great data and be working with their doctors. We still want our clients to chart, but something still is not bridging that gap though. So that's also a goal for this program, is we're the bridge. So if they're not charting by the time they start with us, they absolutely will want to. And again, they kind of start, but we're kind of setting them up with like what method might be the best one for you, because charting your cycle is so important. So we're helping her to restore whatever these health conditions are, educate her about her hormones and about, Gillis, gut inflammation, liver, adrenals, sex hormones, but we want to put a good face on it. Like, we want to make hormones cool again. That's the mantra, because people have a lot of preconceived notions. I'm like, no, we're like the PR team. We're like going to make this so cool that people are going to be like, oh yeah, hormone coaches are, bomb.com.
The thing.
Yeah.
Jamie, do you work with women with low libido or anything like that?
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. First question I would ask is how old is that woman? But typically low libido is, of course, like we know estrogen and testosterone have a relationship. Estrogen and testosterone are boyfriend and girlfriend with one another. So if estrogen is low, testosterone will be low, and we know testosterone drives libido. But what do you have like a person in mind or like a case in mind?
No, I just know there's a lot of different things that go into that clearly, but I know it's also like, it's not the easiest thing to go to your doctor with.
Sure.
For the same reason we discussed before. So it's just like nice to have that other avenue to talk about lifestyle and nutrition and supplement stuff. So I was just curious.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah. We have the women like identify their 3 main pain points, and that's typically what we're really targeting for those things.
What do you mean when you say pain points? Like lifestyle issues or like actual physical pain, or?
Yeah, it can vary. I could say 3 goals or pain points. So maybe they have difficulty losing weight, they have acne, and they have really painful periods. So those would be the 3 things. And then over the course of, 2 to 3 months, again, I trained the coaches to have the information, and they get to decide truly how long they want to meet with the client. But over the course of those 2 to 3 months, then of course that's giving the focus to the coach so that they know what they're really going to drill into and how that works.
Yeah, that makes sense. So if somebody's interested in doing hormone coaching, of going through your program, is it open to anybody, or do you have to have like some other certifications or experience before you do that? Because I know like with Marquette, for example, you have to be a medical health professional before you do that.
Nope. The only thing I'd say at this point, the most important thing is that there's mission alignment. So as long as we have that same worldview of the genius of our body, the genius of our hormones, we don't want to interrupt a healthy biological process like fertility or pregnancy. That is a very important aspect. So I interview all of the students. You could go on and be a coach or sign up for a thing and go to a website and just pay for it there, and then you're in. But that's not how it is for mine. I really think it's very important for women, like, when we're healing, it's important to heal in community. We can't heal by ourselves. We need others to heal. I think the same thing is true when we learn. Like women, I think, will best learn in a community. Can we learn doing a course online by ourselves? Yes. Yes, we can. But there will be far more joy and transformation in our own lives when we learn with community. So we become like sisterhood, like tight, like travel to different states with one another, having been a stranger 6 months prior. And I feel like that's how you start a movement. Aaliyah Jacobson, the CEO and founder of Guiding Star Project, she feels called to start this holistic feminism movement. And this definitely falls in line with that movement. But again, movements begin with women in community. And so that's another key aspect of my program, is they have to be the right fit. And often it comes through prayer and discernment on both sides.
Yeah. I love that you have there. It's interesting, like as we get into this space, and as so many of us are creating our own kind of niches in this space, and it's awesome. It's like we can kind of, I think a lot of us can get caught up in, well, I want to help everybody, but what really is of value is when you have a clear mission and you have a clear goal, because it's not just about helping everybody, because that's how you burn out. And that's how you lose sight of what your mission actually is. But having that clarity of mission, and yes, some people are not going to want to do your program, and some people are not going to want to learn, and that's okay, because who you are going to serve is like, it's intentional. And I love what you're saying about how women learn in community, like 100%. I think that we're kind of designed to be more relational. It's just, it's who we are. I hear all the time, women will come to me and they'll be like, why aren't there things like what you're doing for like the men? And I'm like, because the men don't do it. That's not how they operate. That's how we operate. Like, if we want these things for our husbands, like, or, partners, whatever, like they're going to have to create it. Like we're creating this for us, because that's kind of what we do. That's just our bread and butter. That's how this works. But for the guys, like, it's a totally different way of doing that thing. But that, it just made me think of when you were talking about that, like the differences as well, that yeah, it'd be great if these things existed for men, but they got to make it.
That's a really good point. Yeah. And if it was made for them, again, would they participate? Would it fill them as much? Probably not. Right. Yeah. It wouldn't have the same power.
And I mean, we've all kind of spoken to it a little bit, but I love what you're talking about, mission alignment. That's the term you used, right? And obviously, like, so that's how you're going to get the people that best work with each other too, because your missions are aligned.
Totally.
And also like both of y'all are speaking so much to this. And what we at FAMBase hope to speak to is treating each individual as a whole person. And we're not just a physical body. We're so much more than that. And it seems like that's what you're really capturing. I looked at some of your information. I saw the terms holistic worldview, Fiat woman, holistic feminist. And I think you've already kind of like translated some of those, but I just think that's really unique. And I think it is going to be helpful to a lot of women. But we were also talking about health issues and coming from birth control, and a lot of women are on birth control for health issues, health reasons, or they're not for whatever reason able to find help from their doctor. Can you talk to us a little bit about some common issues that we see in women when it comes to hormones? We have thyroid dysfunction, miscarriages that can happen, PMS, postpartum depression. I know I just threw like a lot out there, but I know we only have a certain amount of time, so I'm just wondering how you can speak to some of those very common issues that a lot of women are dealing with and may not know what to do with them.
Sure. I'll teach you a quick, like, little trick. And this was something that literally dawned on me personally, which is fun to say because normally, like, I love to read, and I'm sure it's from a culmination of all these things, but it just kind of came full circle for me. Okay, so this is a little tip for your listeners and for you guys. Okay, so you mentioned a lot of things. You said thyroid, like repetitive miscarriage,
PMS, postpartum depression.
those sorts of things. Okay, so when I was like trying to navigate this whole like map, and of course we're always still learning and we're always still discovering things, but truly Gillis is what helps me stay on track when anybody has any sort of issue. They come to me, they say, oh, I have whatever, PMS or thyroid problem. I think, okay, in my brain, when I write GILAS horizontally, where does that thing likely most land? Obviously, I can't know without asking them about a million questions, which again, hormone coaches are really good at. But for the example of thyroid, for instance, okay, someone says, I have a thyroid problem. Let's just say it's hypothyroidism. That's very, very common. Hypothyroidism. So, okay, yes. Okay. So Emily raises her hand. Yes. Okay. So we're lethargic, dry skin, dry nails, dry hair, like really low motivation, low digestion, kind of like hypo means underactive, So the first thing in my head, I think of, okay, so 90% of thyroid issues are due to an autoimmune response. So what does that mean? So then we go through Gillis. So we think about our gut. When we think about our gut, what is our gut's role? It's to absorb nutrition. I mean, I'm keeping it very basic. It's to absorb nutrition, and our gut needs to be really healthy, and the junctions, like the tissue junctions, need to be very tight so that the food we eat can stay within the tract and then be exposed of, like, in terms of the additional nutrition that we don't need. But because of our diet and lifestyle, the interstitial junctions can be loosened. So we think of leaky gut. You guys have heard that before. Okay. So again, you're wondering, how are you tying this to thyroid? But it has everything to do with your thyroid. Because if your gut is leaky, then that means toxins and whole food particles and things are flowing from what's supposed to be in your intestines out into your bloodstream. And then your body is so smart. It's like, oh, danger, danger. I need to have an immune response. I need to have an immune response and fight against these things in my bloodstream that shouldn't be there. What happens is if you have this leaky gut and every day you eat food, and you keep getting all of this exposure to these quote unquote bugs in your bloodstream, your body is creating this immune response. Pretty soon it becomes autoimmune. And so when anybody says they have a thyroid condition, which we know is an autoimmune disease or any other autoimmune disease, I always think, what is the state of that gut? Because there's inflammation, and inflammation drives autoimmune disease. So if it's a thyroid issue, my key, again, this is really keeping it basic, but like something that like I love is turmeric. So there's like golden lattes, and like turmeric capsules, which are like the powder and the oil combined, which creates a more bioavailable to your body. But like anti-inflammatory foods and yada yada, I would be bringing those in, for instance, or cleaning up the diet, which is sometimes harder said than done. Decreasing my toxic load, really taking care of my gut. Okay, that is an example. So Gillis, GI. I went through gut and I knew inflammation, thyroid, they're kind of connected, and it all trails back to that gut. Keeping it really simple. There's, hereditary factors and all these other things, but that's one example. Did that make sense what I just said just now? Okay, I'll give you one more example. So if somebody
I kind of want to just be like, okay, so tell me more, like, because it's like, if this is, I kind of, I don't know, it wasn't technically like, it wasn't defined as hypothyroidism. It was just, she told like I went to an integrative medicine doctor and she said, low functioning thyroid. And so now I'm like, I need to book a session and just be like, okay, tell me all of the things.
What's interesting, one more thing I'll say about thyroid, which I think is so, like, no one talks about this. So thyroid's very complicated. I'd say it's one of the most complicated things personally, because you have
it's second from the pituitary gland in terms of like coordinating all of your hormones. So it's like, it's up there.
Yeah. But so I'll again keep it really basic. Sometimes it's hard for me to do that. But so the pituitary gland stimulates the thyroid with TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. But then your thyroid produces T3 and T4, and T3 is your active hormone and T4 is your inactive hormone. The thing about the thyroid that's tricky is if your liver, kidneys, gut, adrenals, if your organs, specifically those, are not doing well, like remember with the gut, but even the liver and the kidneys, then that also may be a factor as to why our thyroid is underactive, because that T4 from the thyroid has to get sent off to those organs, and then active T3 gets sent back. But it's not going to send active T3 back if those organs are in distress. That's why the thyroid is complicated, and that's why a lot of people sometimes have a hard time pinpointing it, because they don't know where is it coming from. Is it a dull signal from the pituitary gland? Is my thyroid not sending off the signal strong enough? Is are the liver and my gut, are those not sending this signal back? And so that's why hypothyroidism is so common, but there's different forms.
Yeah.
So that isn't that interesting. So then we got to think about cleansing the gut, decreasing our toxins, decreasing inflammation. I mean, it all goes to that.
I'm kind of chuckling because we've been doing like a 3-month-long sleep regression, and I'm like, my adrenals are just kind of like, we are not functioning right now. So there's no I'm like, okay, problem solved. Like, I just need my kid to sleep through the night. And
how old is your kid?
He's 6 months. But he's been on like a 3-month-long sleep regression, which I know, like, if you don't get good sleep, like that causes all sorts of hormonal problems. So it's like, if that can get worked out. And I think there's a balance here too, that I think as we talk about wellness, this is something that I see that people like, there's a healthy love of learning and implementing all of these things. And then it can totally be taken to like, okay, now I'm going to like dictate my life around all of these things. Can you talk about like that balance?
Yeah.
Because obviously like we still want to live. But like having this information, how do you like keep that balance between, I know that, eating these highly processed potato chips, not great for me, but they're really freaking good. So I'm going to go for it anyway. You know what I mean? Like
Totally. I think of a tightrope. I think of an imagery a lot. I love like thinking about story and picture in my mind. It helps me learn stuff. So literally the way I think of it for my own life and for others, we even have like a tightrope exercise. I think of a tightrope, and I think if we're trying to walk across the tightrope up in the sky and the tightrope is nice and thick, cool, like less likely that we'll, lose our balance. And each like little portion of the tightrope, of course, that kind of weaves together, is an element of our life. So, one of the parts could be our hormones. So let's say we're experiencing PMS, and that now loosens up or maybe strips one away. You guys can imagine what I'm talking about. Like, when like a big thick cord is like starting to break. So maybe one's broken, but the tightrope is still pretty much intact and pretty thick. But imagine if like my diet kind of stinks and my immune system's kind of terrible and I'm not moving a lot and maybe my relationship's rocky. Now that tightrope is getting a lot thinner. So now add that PMS into that story. Like I said, that's a lot harder for that woman to have low progesterone at that point because of the added elements to that situation, the difficulty. So that's what I think about. I think, eat the potato chips. Like, how thick is your tightrope? Do you feel like garbage? Are you eating because you're depressed? Like that might be unhealthy. Or are you eating them because like you just really love your chips? But that's fine. I mean, eat them. How thick is your tightrope? If your tightrope is thinning out, I think first off is you always want to be aware. Like being aware is the only, being hormone aware, being self-aware, emotionally aware, mentally aware, being just aware. And sometimes we put pressure on ourselves to have to change and do all these things like, no, like listeners, listen, here's the deal. All you have to do is be aware. Like that's the first step, so you don't have to do anything. The easiest thing, the first thing is be aware, and I always say, if you want to do something and you know that will be healthy and it's the easiest thing, get a big old glass of water and drink through that water every week. A big old thing, like I like to get like a 2-quart pitcher and I just fill it up to the top and I stick a big old straw in that sucker, put it on my counter, and I'm like I like to go to Aldi and get like that like bin of lettuce. So instead of me being like, I need to eat a salad every day, I just think I'm going to try to get through that bin this week, whatever. And I can't get through the big one, I'll get through the small one. And that way I just think I'm going to drink that big thing on the counter and I'm going to eat that thing. And maybe I eat 2 huge salads that week, but that's cool. My goal is to get through that bin. You guys know what I mean? Those little plastics.
Oh yeah.
Lettuce.
The ones, and inevitably because they're different lettuces, like one starts to decompose before the other one.
Yeah.
It's all weird. Yeah. Nobody has ever made it through an entire bin of that without that starting to happen.
It's true. It's true. I can attest to that.
So yeah, that freedom though.
Yeah.
The freedom, because I can't, I'm stressed out to think like I have to do, that's why I'm so not good at nutrition, because I'm just stressed out mentally before I can even like learn it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess so I need that freedom to think of it that way. I think that's really helpful.
Good.
And it's like, it's very prudent. It's like, I know what's going on, but like, I'm in this situation right now. And the most prudent thing is for me to do X, Y, and Z. But then later on, like, I know I have this option and that kind of balances things out. Like, I love that approach. Like, I think a lot of people think because we're so hardwired with like diet culture that like we go hardcore with this one thing and, we do it for the stint of time. And then that's going to completely change our life. It's like, no, there needs to be a whole mindset shift about how we think about all these things. Like the fact is we live in the United States of America and like so many of our foods are highly processed. This is our life. So how do we balance that reality? Yeah.
Amen. And maybe the food thing is the hard thing. Maybe that's the thing where we're hearing ourselves say, I should, like where there's maybe a little bit of shame, or maybe there's some, like for me personally, I had an eating disorder in college. And so that has a more loaded thing in my mind, maybe than some other issues or whatever. And so I think, again, I like that analogy of the tightrope, like maybe give yourself grace with the food thing. Cool. But there's other elements of life that we can try to restore, all knowing that, of course, they all weave together, but maybe just try drinking more water instead of saying, I'm going to limit garbage. I think
that I can do. I can drink more water. I can drink water.
Drink water, you'll be fine.
Well, and then it becomes counterintuitive because then you get stressed out about eating right. And so like, okay, you're taking care of your diet, but now your mental health is off the ropes. But I know we need to wind up, and we do ask all of our guests one question. We like to put them on the spot.
Okay.
Because I accidentally did not inform you of this. Sorry, here it comes.
Oh, I'm okay.
Oh, it was an accident in air quotes. Yeah, no. Okay. Give us your elevator pitch for fertility awareness.
Okay.
I feel like she's up for it though. I think you'll get a good answer.
Okay. Did you know that there was a beautiful natural way to manage not only your family, but your health? Imagine if you were given the tools to take control of your fertility and your health at the same time. You don't need to imagine anymore because there are hormone coaches that are here to assist you on your journey, not only to being a hormone genius, but being the most fully alive version of yourself that you've ever hoped to become. So visit my website, fiatinstitute.com, to learn more.
Nice. That's perfect.
Boom.
Yes.
Boom.
Oh, so well
There
done.
we
I
go.
do. Real quick, if anybody wants to, I know you have your website you just mentioned. Is that the same place to go to if somebody would like to receive the hormone coaching, not just become a hormone coach? How do they find that?
Yes. If you want to learn to be a hormone coach, fiatinstitute.com. If you want to get hormone coaching, email contact@fiatinstitute.com. And in the future, depending on when you post this, fiatinstitute.com/directory. So you could try both. Go to the website first. I don't know when that's not live yet, but directory would also be good. So either of those.
We'll put all that in the show notes whenever we publish the episode. So as you're listening, whatever platform you're on, just drop that down and click away.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. Jamie, thank you so much for joining us today. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, learned a lot myself. So
Yay.
I'm like, yes, I have some things buzzing that I might have to contact you about later on. But thank you so much for joining us today and sharing with us. And
Cool.
Okay.
I'm glad to be here. I'm so happy to talk with you ladies, cut from the same cloth. So it's always a fun conversation.
Right.
yeah.
Yes. Listeners, thank you for being with us. And as always, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram. Have a great day.